Hey, you're watching the 100 in 100, where we review one of the top 100 VR games every day for 100 days. So tighten your head straps, cinch those lanyards on your controllers, and let's jump in. We're going to go for one wild and I'm sure nauseating ride. Today we're going to be diving, and literally we're going to be diving into the game Rush VR. Rush VR is a fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping VR experience that will make you feel very sick. Let's jump in and look at what we're talking about. We gave ourselves 1 hour to download the game, install it, work our way through the tutorial, and see how far we could get into the levels. In our VR Gear game reviews, we cover a bunch of different areas so that you know exactly what you're getting into and you can make a fully informed decision before you buy a VR title. We then rank each game according to a common criteria so that you can know how well a game performs against other games. Our criteria for ranking games will help you know where it falls in the spectrum of game type as well as game quality. So let's jump in. The download file was about 5 gigabytes. Installation all total is probably 15 minutes with a reasonable internet connection. The installation process is pretty straightforward. We downloaded Rush VR from Viveport Infinity, the subscription we have, and you can also download it from the Steam store or you can get it on PSVR. We got it from Viveport Infinity because, well, we didn't have to buy it. If your payment information is already stored on one of these storefronts, you can just hit the download button and wait till the download finishes and it will automatically install, ready to play right away. After installation is done, you'll be able to launch it through either Steam VR or in our case we use Viveport VR. We launched it up and we jumped right into the game and started to look around and see what it was that was so exciting about Rush VR and all of the marketing material. So what is Rush VR? Well, Rush VR is a racing game of epic proportions. In Rush VR, your vehicle is your body. So you are armed with a wingsuit and you drop from the top of a cliff and you begin flying through the air, or rather falling through the air. It's a controlled fall with a wingsuit as you race against other players and against the AI of the game. We couldn't figure out how to beat the AI. We couldn't figure out how to beat any other players. They were really good even in the early levels of the game. But now let's talk about how you get up and running with the game. Just like any other racing game, the name of the game in Rush VR is going fast. You need to pass checkpoints, which requires you to go through certain rings, and as you do, you gain additional momentum. If you don't gain momentum or speed, your flyer crashes into the mountainside. As you pass checkpoints, you have a power meter that increases in power, and you can use those to boost and increase your speed relative to the other flyers. We used it quite a bit, and we never passed a different flyer. They are all very fast and very good, even in the early levels, like I said. But I assume it's like every other racing game. Straight lines, tight corners, and don't waste too much time by added friction. So there's several different game modes that all require you to master the exact same skills. Go faster, get through the checkpoints, and beat the opponents. They name them different things. There's time attack, race, score challenge, and one other one. But you basically fly down the mountain or fall gracefully, gliding past the trees and over the snow, through ice caves to get to the finish line. The faster you do it, higher your points. Okay, so once you've chosen the character that you're going to be in the game, you have up to 80 different courses that you'll be able to play if you play the game all the way through. If you don't unlock them, then you won't. The interesting thing is there aren't 80 different mountains or 80 different scenes, but there's 80 different paths that you'll travel through a set of 5 different destinations. So for example, the Snowy Mountain has about 20 different courses that all fly down the exact same mountain, but they are different courses that require you to traverse different parts of the mountain. But to unlock all of those courses, you need to place high enough in the rankings to unlock the next level. Good luck with that. One cool thing that is part of the game is multiplayer mode, which allows you to invite 11 other friends to all jump and glide and fall together in a multiplayer race. We don't have 11 friends in VR, but if we did, this would be a really great experience, I think. All right, so let's talk about player perspective. This game is played from the first-person player perspective, where if you look down, you'll see your body, and you reach out in front of you, you can see your hands, and in some parts, you can actually see the goggles that outline your eyes. It doesn't necessarily help, though, with anchoring and making you feel less motion sick while you're moving through the air. You do have the perspective of first person in the game. Now, it's expected that when you are in VR, that first person is the default, that you want to be able to be immersed in the experience, but there's a huge problem problem when you do things that are incredibly jarring and disorienting for your senses. A good example is this game does a great job at modeling physics, I think. I don't know what it's like to fall down a mountain in a wingsuit. It seems to respond properly to the control inputs of the flyer. The controls in this game require you to hold your arms out in front of you or to the side. Very quickly, your arms feel heavy and your arms become tired. There are different control modes where you can point where you're wanting to go, or you can look where you're wanting to go. The most immersive is to hold your arms up. And since you don't have any wind resistance that's actually keeping your arms up, you're gonna have to hold your arms up by yourself for the entire course. All right, let's talk about the music and the sound in this game. There's not much to the music in this game. In fact, we didn't know there was music in this game until we listened for it, but it really wasn't songs or anything written by anyone that you would know. It was more of a background sample track. It really isn't something that you hear as a player. I don't know if the music adds anything to gameplay. The sounds that you hear in the game, I don't know if it's the sounds that a wingsuit pro would hear. I'm pretty sure a wingsuit pro, if there are such pros out there, the thing that they hear most is their own breathing. So if that is what a wingsuit pro hears, I'm glad that we get to hear what the game provides us. I don't want to hear heavy breathing for the entire duration of a course. We get to hear the windswept mountains, trees rustling and things like that, and mostly just the sound of wind rushing past our helmet. One thing that we enjoyed and we wish there was more of was the sounds that you hear when you crash land or run into the face of a rock. There's a splat sound, but the graphics don't necessarily do a good job representing what just happened. All right, let's talk a little bit more about the controls of this game. The default is with your arms outstretched, lifting your arms or lowering your arms, go up or down, and you lean or tilt your arms to steer left or right. You can have an inverted control with the up and down, or you can have it just mirror which direction you are moving your arms up or down. There's another mode where you're allowed to point the direction you'd like to go. So all of the turning and the up and down will be taken care of for you. The other mode is through looking. You're able to look in the direction that you're wanting to fly. And the final way that you can control it is with a joystick, just like a regular video game. However, if you're wanting to have this game be immersive, I recommend using your arms as your steering mechanism. Okay, so there's only two different locomotion events in this game. One of them, you're standing completely still. This happens in the main menu and in the end of race leaderboard area where you can either restart or go back to the main menu. You're standing completely stationary. Your player does not move. You can look around, but there's no movement. The other player movement mode is when you're actually in the game. And this one responds to the physics of the game as they designed it so that you can accelerate or decelerate, steer left or right, up or down, and make it through the checkpoint. Your forward movement is taken care of for you. The laws of physics and gravity just pull you down the mountain. Your job is to use air resistance as you fall to guide your flyer to the final destination, to the finish line and through the checkpoint. Okay, so here's the final scorecard for Rush VR. The higher the score, the better. All right, the controls. The controls for the game. You have 6 different control modes that you can choose from. Each of them has their different benefits and drawbacks, and the one that makes the most sense to use is the one that's going to make you have tired and sore shoulders from gameplay. So for the controls, we give it a score of 3 out of 10. Music and sound. For music and sound, we were hopeful for some upbeat soundtrack that would really get you into the game and help with the immersion, but we didn't hear it. And while the audio wasn't accurate as to what you would hear as a wingsuit pro flying down the mountain, we did appreciate that there was a sense of realism to what would be heard on the outside of a helmet of a wingsuit pro flying down the mountain. And so we give the music and sound of this game a 4 out of 10. Player movement was a difficult one for a game like this because you're trying to get people to feel like they are falling or flying through the air while they are either seated or standing on their feet. This alone can cause some real nausea or disorientation. And we see this a lot in VR, and I don't know how much more of this VR should have without extra hardware on the outside to help people feel what they're seeing. However, it was pulled off very well. The controls were representative of what you were experiencing and what you were able to do in VR. And so we give Rush VR a 6 out of 10 for player movement. The next one is Kinetosis or motion sickness. We love VR, and we also love having settled stomachs. This game seems not to care at all about my stomach being settled. In fact, this game and a lot of games like it just maybe shouldn't be in VR until we have some sort of external haptic input that can trick the rest of our bodies into feeling what our eyes are seeing. We give Rush VR a 1 out of 10 when it comes to sensitivity to motion sickness. Final area is environment and immersion, and we're giving Rush VR a very high score here. The landscapes were beautiful. You were able to see some very wonderful vistas. You were able to fly through them, which is fantastic. The audio, of course, didn't match exactly what you would hear inside of a wingsuit flyer's helmet, but we're grateful that that wasn't there, and it didn't ruin the immersion. And so we're giving Rush VR an 8 out of 10 for the environment and immersion. Okay, so Rush VR, what did we actually feel when we were playing the game? Well, the marketing material that we read and all of the download pages, the game looks really exciting and the concept is really appealing. But the problem is, on a 2D screen, that is awesome and it works really well. But as soon as you become the flyer, as soon as you're jumping off of the mountain or looking down and seeing the expanse beneath you, and then seeing that you jumped, but feeling that you're standing still, having that experience over and over and over in this game was really, really jarring and not that great. At the end of the day, the overall feeling that we had is that Rush VR is not a game that we'll be coming back to. We don't think that it's worth the $19.99 that you have to pay if you want to buy it as a standalone title. Sure, if you have a Viveport Infinity subscription, go download it, try it, and get motion sick and then, put it to the side. But games like this are very difficult for us to give a full endorsement to. It was beautiful, some of the audio was fantastic, the physics made sense, but feeling and being in that mode, completely immersed, was not the best idea. So overall score for Rush VR is a 4.4 out of 10. Okay, so that's it for Rush VR. This has been 100 VR games in 100 days. Hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so that you can get a notification when we release another VR game review tomorrow. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.